Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another edition of On Point. If it's Sunday, 4 o'clock on the East Coast, it's On Point. And with me, as usual, are some of the brilliant minds in Liberia on the topics. Even though we reside in the United States, we have our brother here from the land of 10,000 lakes. And then I will consider my other brother here from the nation's capital, even though he's not in Washington, D.C., but we know he's within the vicinity. Ladies and gentlemen, you are in for a treat. I'm going to introduce our panelists. We're going to discuss issues that are actually germane to Liberian politics. Some are so hot that my co-host here, Mr. Aliu Kamara, have worn his official red shirt and red hat. Is going to be serious. He's not holding any punches. We are going all out. Listen, politics, as the old folk used to say in Greece, is a blood sport. If your skin is thin, don't get into politics. If you don't want to be talked about, don't get into politics. If you don't want your mom to be cursed, don't get into politics. If you don't want to be accused of being a thief, don't get into politics. If your sexuality is important to you, don't get into politics. If you're into the closet, stay in the closet. If you are out here, we will discuss you and you can discuss us. We can curse you. You can curse us by, not literally, but in the political sense, we may say things that will offend a lot of folks. That's what this platform is all about. And I have to go with a disclaimer. Whatever we discuss here, it is strictly our opinion and not that of our management and staff. This is On Point individual opinion. Let me introduce to you Mr. Aliu Kamara, who is a strong supporter of Joseph Boakai, who knows the party in and out, have followed the party, followed the politics, knows the strategy, and knows where we are with the politics. He's going to be here. Mr. Aliu Kamara, welcome.
Thank you for having me. And I'd like to say this, there's a true confession, and this regards focus on Liberia. You know, focus on Liberia is dear to some of us. It's a part of our everyday life. And I must admit, from the time Focus on Liberia was established, I should have been one of the people to actually contribute to the growth, financially contribute to the growth of this organization. But I've been dragging my feet for a very long time. I have never done it. And Focus on Liberia has never judged me by that. Focus on Liberia has given me a space on the platform anyways, even though I've disappointed the administration of Focus on Liberia, at least to be a more, to pull my weight, so to speak, because we're all part of the platform. And I haven't done so. And to my utmost surprise, these guys will still include me in every step of the way. They'll find ways. In fact, Dennis was trying to get me to be a co-panelist to Anthony C. I refused. They had to figure out a way to still get me on this team, even though I didn't pay no money. Now, few places like my big, what do you call him? Uh, the Unity Party, where he names it, George Lobo. I couldn't contribute to George Lobo show in from many ways to black me. Asfa Gali, my own big brother, I can't contribute to Asfa Gali show, so he don't want to deal with me anymore. If I were talking on the phone, he'd be like, man, I leave you, man, I gotta go, busy, gotta go. I'm like, damn, I gotta spend some money over there for me to get some attention. But Focus on Liberia is unique in its own way. I mean, they allow your conscience to actually beat the crap out of you, and that's what's going on now. And I just respect you guys. To be frank with you.
Thank you very much. And this is why we love Focus on Liberia, who we are. Come as you are. No holds bar. You're Muslim, you're Christian, you're atheist, you name it. We got people here who are agnostic, and they still come on. And someday we'll discuss the differences between religious beliefs and all of that. But the land of 10,000 lakes, your background looks beautiful. You're getting better and better every day, man. What's going
Yeah,
on?
that's why it takes me so long to get on because I'm trying to set everything just right. But I want to follow in Mr. Kamara's footstep on his introduction. I think, like he said, Focus on Liberia has been a benevolent platform for most of us who are, avid political actors who likes to be in the fray, so to speak. And although I do my little one, two here and there, but it's really not much to sustain the network, of course. So, Mr. Ja, Mr. Sia, and to you too, Mr. Gayman, you guys have done a wonderful job in sustaining this network. It's a platform that make us feel at home. Everybody know I'm always one of the first caller on the line. Anything Focus on Liberia put out there, I'm one of the first people to be on the live feed. So we appreciate the platform, and we want to thank the management for this platform, and to continue doing the great work. Sooner or later, they're going to take that next step, but we have to be a part of it. We have to contribute and help to make the network the network we want to see it, the way we want to see it, so to speak. I'll leave it there.
Thank you very much.
And another thing, just to support Evan, another thing before we get into this, I think this will be focused on Liberia Day for the most part. These guys, the level of tolerance. Do you know how brutal I go against Anthony C? I even attack a show on this network. A show I don't like. That's how you call it? The History Channel. I don't like that
Oh,
show. And I'm making known. Yet they consider it to be my opinion. Period. You know what I mean? So these guys are outstanding. I tell you that.
true.
Well,
I have still problem with that show. I think that show confuses our people because it has an ulterior motive, and that's why I got a problem with that show. And they know that. Anthony still knows that. Dennis John knows that. They just let me be. Maybe they just say to themselves, "Let's just leave that prison man." Maybe.
ladies and gentlemen, you just heard what the gentleman just said. We take a few minutes of our time to give praises where praises are due. Give the man flowers before he passes on, and based on that, like we say, to keep the lights on. Focus on Liberia spends a lot of money to keep the system going. They don't have a huge following that give money. So we are asking our friends and everybody else to please chip in whatever you have. When I used to be with the United Way, we made more money in our campaign from the $20 donors that we made from the $1 million. I understand $1 million used to come in once in a while. They will come in, but they come in with an attachment. For instance, a guy came in with $2 million endowment. His mother had died from, I think it was not cancer of the spleen. So he wanted that money to go towards agencies that were making research and helping people that had spleen cancer. So that was a special kind of donation. But the $20 donation, $30 donations that came in, came in for general operation. They didn't care how you spend it. So how we used to collect the money is we would go to the different corporations and we carry something called the pledge cards. And the poor folks in the ghetto, in the neighborhoods that you and I wouldn't dare go, were the most persistent, reliable donors. You know what they did? They would go to their company. We carry the pledge cards. They would sign on it and say, they would tell management, the HR department, please take $20 off my check monthly and send it to the United Way. Okay? As an occurring donation, that is $20 a month, continually for a year. That's $220, right? $20 times 12. $220, yeah, $220. That a poor person that makes the minimum wage, lives in the ghetto, is making that kind of donation to the United Way. She doesn't want the money to get in her hand because if it does, she will not be able to give it back. So she tells her HR department, please deduct $20 from my paycheck and send it directly to the United Way.
I think that's 240.
240, huh? Okay. So now listen to this. If you have 1,000 people for that rank giving you $20 a month, 1,000 people continuously, we're not talking about a millionaire that comes in once a year or once every other year. We're talking about continuously somebody giving that money. So this is how we raise money. So if you are part of this, the family here, if you like what Focus on Liberia does, and you want to make a contribution, they are not asking you to give up $500 or $1,000. If you can afford $20 a month, if you can afford $10 a month, but a recurring, that means every month you send out $10. At the end of the year, you're going to send $120. It will help this organization greatly, because now with the small donation that we are having, you are now having courage in Sierra Leone. The guy Edward Anmara from Sierra Leone giving us courage on the whole of West Africa, and sometimes he covers the entire Africa. It takes a lot of research, data, and the small money we send him, he uses that. Now we have reporters in Monrovia that are going to all the primaries. Sometimes they eat Grand Gita, Grand Bass, or Lofa. It takes money. So ladies and gentlemen, please help Focus on Liberia. We are not like any other outlet, because here we have health, politics, we got children, we got religion, we got history. All of those things can be had here. So this is not just a podcast. This is a real television station that is in the cloud. So ladies and gentlemen, help as much as you can. I cannot share my show from here. So gentlemen, please share the show in your system. I don't know what's going on here, but from here, say I can't share. So please share this show with everybody in your system. And ladies and gentlemen out there, please share this show and join the conversation. If you are from the CPP, if you are from the TWP, they got a new political party called TWP New Generation, and you want to come out here and take on Kamara or take on myself, or share the perspective of the True We Party New Generation, just call us.
In other words, anything called True We Party, when they see Kamara, they're going to run. They don't want to be a part. They know.
So True We Party, CPP, well, CPP has now, the ANC has now morphed into something else called CPP. So we don't know, but if you're from the ANC, you want to come out here and take on myself, take on Elvis, take on Jimmy Eastman, come on, we are ready to go. So ladies and gentlemen, we have a great show for you today. As you can see in Liberia, there's a lot going on, political issues going on, primaries going on. The ambassador, the U.S. ambassador's farewell speech to Liberia, what does it mean? We're going to break it down for you. We are going to look at what's going on in Nimba County. There are two names that are coming out of Nimba County that people say we should watch out for. There's a guy by the name of Roland Duo. Roland Duo, that name, they want you to watch and listen for that name. The name Roland Duo. There's another name they call Dupo Macazon.
I know both of them. Both of them were strong rebels in the 1990s.
Great. Those two names, very strong. So when you hear the name Roland Duo and you hear the name Macazon, what does it mean? And where does this stand when it comes to Prince Johnson? Who is Prince Johnson? Does Prince Johnson know these folks? Do they know Prince Johnson? What do they have in common? What are the similarity and dissimilarity? Why is Nimba now looking at Roland Duo and Macazon? We will look at that. Does that mean anything for the folks in Nimba? Nimba had several major tribes, but we have one of these guys, from what I understand, the research I have done here, both of them, their father, Mana, mother, Gil. The other one, father, Gil, mother, Mana. So you can't put them in any particular camp. They are true sons of the county. So here we are. We're going to discuss that. Then we're going to discuss Mr. Alexander Cumming was at Harvard attending a symposium that he was invited to. And that symposium focuses on Paul, of all people, Paul Kagame. We all know who Paul Kagame is. Of all the progressive leaders in the world, Mr. Cumming chose to study Paul Kagame, the success of Paul Kagame. If that model is what he is looking at, we need to be very careful with this guy. We need to discuss who in the world is going to look at Paul Kagame as a model for a nation. Who in the world? What is going on in the minds of a man is like, to me, if a person tells you, I'm going to Europe to study the models, but all the models in Europe, I am going to look at Adolf Hitler or Mussolini and say, these are the models that I think I want to model. There's something intrinsically is wrong with you, politically, mentally, historically, and we're going to look at that. Mr. Kamara, let's start with the U.S. ambassador's message. I don't know if you read it. I sent it to you earlier, so we're going to look at it. Mr. Morris, I sent it to you also. Did you read it?
Yes.
Okay. So I begin with you, saying you have it on your screen. Let's go. What do you make of the ambassador's speech?
Thank you, Mr. Gayman. I mean, I like the speech, but it kind of it left me scratching my head because it seems to be a departure from what the ambassador was doing during his time as ambassador. Because this speech is a glowing review of President Weah's administration, right? But then, in that same breath, a few months back, he said that he went to these different counties and he visited, and there was, a lack of basic needs for the people in those counties. But at the same time, he's speaking so glowingly about the president and how he sees, a glimpse of a new Liberia and so on and so forth. Which we know, those of us who support the CDC, we know that these wonderful things are happening in the country. But why did he make that statement now when he's leaving? Why wasn't he making that statement then when he was there? That's the thing that perplexed me when I read the speech, because we know that there are a lot of good things going on in the country, of course, but there's some challenges, of course. So for once, I like to see a balanced analysis from anybody. Say the good, point out the bad, room for improvement, but also give praise where it's due. So for me, it was kind of a one-sided speech in favor of in favor of the government, and as a government supporter, I should love it. But at the same time, I saw it as a departure from his normal style of communicating. It seemed too good to be true. So I don't know how you read into it, but that was my reading. Too good to be true, because yes, a lot of good things happening, but there are still some challenges that we need to improve upon. So I'll pass it over to Mr. Kamara.
Okay, now let's look at before I go to Mr. Kamara, let's go through the list, because one of the things that Mr. Kamara and you and everybody else, we've been talking about here is when we are talking, we want to present some facts, because when it's factual, it is almost impossible to argue with facts. So let's look at his statement here. He said, in fact, in my time here, if there is one recurring theme that unites every visitor to this country, it is the sense of Liberia's potential. There is so many reasons for hope. I have seen a glimpse of the new Liberia. So let's take it one step at a time. Do we agree that Liberia has huge potential? Is that factual? Or is that something that is factual?
For me, I would say yes and no. It would seem like unpatriotic to say no in that regards, but we have to look at our country size. Human resource plays a big part in terms of whether or not a determining factor whether or not a country will be quote unquote successful or not. Our human capacity right now is very low compared to other countries. Our number in terms of the total number of our human resources is quite low relative to other African nations. I think with the exception of maybe Togo, we're one of the smallest countries in West Africa in terms of population. So does that mean that we're going to be booming in 20 years time with the kind of human resource and human development that we have in terms of capacity building? I don't know. Relative to our neighbors, I don't think we're even close to being in the middle of the pack, let alone at the top of the pack. So I don't know if it's realistic to think we're going to, our economy is going to, skyrocket in the next 10 or 20 years. Because number one, a lot of our population is, uneducated. The ones who are educated are not very skilled. They don't have the experience. Some of them don't even have jobs that would challenge them to, to put them to that competing level with other countries in the sub-region. So I don't know if it's realistic. You can say it's a flower, it's flowery language, and for those of us who are Liberian, will like it and will be hopeful for it. But you have to look at the hard numbers, and I don't think that the numbers support it. Just my opinion, but I want to hear from you guys. Maybe you differ with me on that.
Okay. Mr. Kamara, the ambassador is saying one thing that everybody rally around the world about Liberia is that Liberia is full of potential.
Yeah, but first of all, let me just say the ambassador did not in any way praise the CDC-led government. The ambassador's statement was not geared towards promoting CDC oppressing George Weah. And listen,
They're coming for you, Alio.
but yeah, Liberia have potential? Yes, I think potential means if everything is put in place, when everything is put in place, there's a brighter future. I don't think potential means there's something happening out of the blues. So the ambassador was on point when he said Liberia has the potential of Liberia is very clear. When you talk about population, in fact, that's one of the advantages that Liberia has. Liberia has a very low population in Africa, but some of the countries that have some of the lowest populations in Africa are doing better than Liberia. When you look at Botswana, that has only about 2 million people. You know, so all you need to do is to put those things that are needed in place. And then sometimes words that means speeches are made in quotes. They don't have to spell everything out. But potential means, if you work at it, it's already there. All you got to do is go for it. If we improve our human resources, like Joseph Brockhaft always said, vocational education, persistent training is the way to industrialize Liberia. If we can do that, yes, we will find ourselves exactly where we want to be. I think 10 years is even a long time. Liberia has at least 11 of the 12 major resources on the planet. At least 11. So does Liberia have potential? Yes. Now all we need to do is all these concession agreements. that we're having. People just digging the holes and digging the ground and just taking the minerals out. They go for gold, but they carry diamond, they carry copper, and everything else they can possibly carry. Somebody digging gold in Cape Mount, but the gold is not passing through the Freeport of Monrovia or the airport of Margibi County. Instead, they have their own helicopter. They fly the gold from Big Mountain straight to Sierra Leone and then out of the country. There's no, nobody really investigating us or inspecting what they're doing. So all of these things are all the ambassador is saying in Russia. What the country need is leadership, and once we have the right leadership in place, I can assure you that the ambassador's prophecy will come to pass.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Focus on Liberia's On Point. Today is Sunday, and it is Sunday, 4 o'clock. It is on point. You can join the conversation through the comment section. You can make call, or you can actually ask to join us next Sunday, and we will bring you on to defend your post. Now we are talking about, you were saying, Mr. Kamara, that this is not a praise for the president, but actually that's what it is. When the ambassador of a nation in the July 4th celebration with over 500 guests, he farewell and said, this is my message, my final report that I'm going to give to the Congress of what I have done here, what I observe here. This is what I think it is. And you are telling me that this is not a prison, but let's go on. I'm going to leave the last part for last, but let's go there. He said, Liberia is a pioneer in female leadership. Not only was the first in Africa to elect a female president, it has also elected a female vice president over 5 years ago, and has now sworn in Liberia's third female chief justice of the Supreme Court. And until recently, last year, 50% of the armed forces of Liberia generals were female. Mr. Morris, you cannot argue the fact that this man is going back to Congress and giving you facts. He says
Let
here.
me answer that.
Okay, go ahead, sir. Go ahead.
Let me answer that.
Go ahead.
This is not for Joshua. This is not about Joshua. This is about Liberia. Remember, he said the third female chief justice.
Mm-hmm.
You understand what I'm saying? All right. Joshua, yes, Joshua brought Joa Howard Taylor by him in the election. But remember that before Joshua, there was a female president.
We mentioned that.
Okay? Before Joshua, there were females in the elections who were running to be president, who were certificated to be president. They just didn't win. Okay? What the ambassador pointed out here are just the facts that have existed even prior to Joshua. Let's talk about the AFL, the women in the AFL. They were not employed in the AFL by Joshua. Joshua met them in the AFL. All right. So even the deputy chief of the armed forces, the deputy chief of staff, who is a female, that lady had been a ranking officer commanding men before Joshua came to power. So this is just an overall overview. It's not about a particular president. It's about the country and how far we've gone.
Ms. Elvis, anything that happens in an administration belongs to that president. Not only that, but the reason that Vice President Boyka has failed is that what the ambassador is saying here, President Weah has continued that trend of putting women into higher position. Joseph Boyka have taken the country back to 1940. When he went, he didn't pick a woman, but he picked another man. The trend of picking women. He deviated. This is a man who came from the leadership of a woman, who benefited from being appointed by the woman. Instead of appointing a woman, he went back to the 1940s and picked another hard-faced man to be his vice president, because only men, in his mind, the old Joseph Boyka is saying only men can run the country strong. So he went and picked another man. On the other hand, the man who took over from Ellen Johnson Sirleaf continued that trend. Not only did he pick a vice president, but have picked several women. One of whom is the Chief Justice of the Republic of Liberia. All of these put together, the president, the ambassador is saying, in this administration, I seen the
No,
glimpse.
no, he did not. He did not say in
Go ahead,
this
Mr. Elvis.
administration. He did not say in
You
this
know,
administration.
I need your help on one thing. Who was the third Chief Justice? You have Gloria Musu, you have Sayene, and who?
Maybe you all.
You.
Yeah, you. But
Uh-huh.
what I'm saying, there's supposed to be one more.
Well,
No,
You
there
said
are
this
other
is the
justices, but
third.
they're not the chief justice.
we have had the former Chief Justice, what her name, Ms. Johnson, you remember? In
Hmm.
the, in the interim government, Ms. Johnson, she
Okay.
was Chief Justice, yes.
Okay. All right. That makes sense. No, but like you said, Mr. Kamara and Mr. Gayman, you both are right. Liberia has been, a pioneer for women's rights in Africa and just in terms of women leadership. So I think when people say Liberian men or Liberian people are sexist, they don't support women, it's not true. Of course, we have the issue of spousal abuse in Liberia, which is a problem, usually, gender-based violence. But when it comes to leadership position, Liberian women has been given the mantle of authority to lead in various capacities. So I think the ambassador was spot on there. Everybody have seen that. When you look at the even our House and our Senate relative to other African countries, we have a lot of women representation in the House of Rep, and even in the Senate. Look at Nigeria, for example. You barely see women in their Senate, and barely in the House of Representatives. A big, rich, powerful country like Nigeria, women are not taking political leadership like they are in Liberia. So that's kudos to us as a whole, but it's also kudos to the president for appointing a female chief justice. He could have easily went with a man, but he appointed a woman. That's props to him. So for me, it's nothing new. What he's saying is something that we, as Liberians, we know that we are tolerant of our women. We put them on high pedestal to be leaders in the country. So, you know, nothing new there. Back to you, Mr. Gibbons.
Great. Now let's go to additional praise for the administration. Boosting, he said, boosting the energy sector. He said the ambassador said the Liberian Electricity Corporation, LEC, have made significant strides in the energy sector under the all Liberian management team headed by Money Captain. He said the
Let me
LEC.
touch on that quickly before you go to Mr. Kamara, because I personally, I'm sure Mr. Kamara can say the same thing, but that's one of the improvements that I can see that I've seen since 2017, because I have family in Liberia that I talk to every single day. And one of the things is the electricity improvement, because every time I call, I say, "Hi, LEC there," always as if LEC there, because when LEC is not there, they are in a bad mood because maybe the food is gonna get rotten in the freezer, no light, mosquito is gonna eat them, nowhere to put the fan on. So LEC was a problem, especially in the beginning of this president's term. But over the years, it has improved. When I call, it's, oh yeah, LEC been on for 3 days now. It ain't even go yet. So the consistent LEC in the country is an improvement under this government. I think we all have to acknowledge that for President Weah. People say, oh, in pay the people in Aricos, in this, in that. But the reality is the people in Liberia, especially in Monrovia, are benefiting from are getting the benefit from LEC, and a consistent current helps improve your life tremendously. It allows you to do a lot of things, whether it's cooking, whether it's the studying of your kids, having some entertainment in your life. All of those things help improve the quality of life. So I want to thank the president and this government for improving that, because it's a big factor for a lot of people in the urban area. I'll leave it there.
uh, um, uh, and he went on to say the LEC headed by the Irish Ghanaian based ESBI, that will honor the Joseph Boyka Ellen Johnson thing, part of the agreement between Liberian government and the donor community, were turned over to an all Liberian management team. The team inherited several problems, including widespread power theft. Currently, the LEC continues to make strides. It has concluded the CLSG negotiation, physically joining the West African Power Pool grid. In addition, LEC is coordinating with donors and the World Bank on the next stages of hydropower expansion, adding carbon-free power generation through additional turbines in large reservoir, and eventually a massive new dam project. McCarthy said the LEC management have proven its doubters wrong. Mr. Kamara, I know I can see it on your face, the pain when they say these good things about Liberia. Your Joseph Boakai and Ellie came in, they brought the Irish company that came in and they didn't understand our culture, our people. They failed miserably for 15 years. Finally, we kick them out, and the ambassador is saying, you are the doubters for this administration. Those of you who have always doubted this man, this is a clean goal. It's not even penalty. We talk about from the beyond the 18-yard or straight shot. Mr. Kamara, lift up your face. How do you praise this president, my friend?
For an old man, you can see very well. I give you that. He got very good at no, but no. Let's see this. And this is why with all and people think we anti Judge Weah. We made Judge Weah in terms of the political life. We made Judge Weah. How can we hate something we created? When George Weah was hesitant of becoming a politician, we were there in the vanguard at the time, trying to enthuse him to get involved. Why can we hate such a man? Our frustration has been that he has been adamant and refused to adjust and to adapt to the realities around him. He has been set in his ways and wouldn't listen to anything else from the outside. He he built a wall around him that was almost or is almost impenetrable. Those are our frustration. When CDC was elected in 2017, I wrote an essay. It was an open letter to the president. In fact, there was a guy called Samuel. What is his name? You can come on focus. I mean, on spoon talk once in a while. Samuel Woolsey. I even sent a copy of that to him, and I called to him. The president saw it. Great ideas. The president refused to adopt any of that because CDC was a new revolution and they had their own agenda. They were going with Samuel Tuer and Nathaniel Mangiel. That's where the problem started. But the decision to appoint Moniraf Captain is some of the things that we've been telling him from the beginning. Get the wrong people out, get the incompetent people out, and put the competent people in. You cannot collect a boy like Avi Wise from the University of Liberia, who was only a student, and send him to the Ministry of Agriculture as a research man, assistant minister for research. What the hell does he know about agriculture? How can this guy actually improve agriculture? He knows nothing about agriculture. And these were the shortcomings of Joshua that we'll continue to highlight and we'll continue to put out there, hoping that they will listen to us, but they were vehement in their rejection of us. So these were the frustrating things. Let me tell you, I was in Liberia in April, the whole of March and the beginning of April. And I even made a video saying I can give Liberia, the Liberian government, up to 85% in terms of electricity. I said that. It's not that the electricity is all that, but you can see the progression. You can see one of my teachers used to say, I will pass you just for applying effort. You understand what I'm saying? We see the effort being applied by this guy. We see this guy coming in with new ideas and formulating ways in which they can collaborate with government to get this entity functional. And it's glaring. We know power tech has been a serious issue, but under his administration, Monirab Captain, under his administration, they have curtailed power tech to a certain degree. In fact, people are becoming a little scared to get involved with power tech because they go to homes and houses now, and once they take your wire, they take it away. And most people cannot afford to pay for those wires continuously. So people are being now forced to go and actually get their thing from the LSC. My thing is the ambassador though did not give the entire story. There are people in Monrovia today, right in Monrovia, not far from the power plant, who have paid for their meters for over 7 months, and LSC have not yet been able to give these people their meters. Therefore, they have to go and steal electricity because their meters cannot be given to them. Now, these are some of the lapses of the LSE. And as we speak, power theft is still going on, and the police is really not helping them that much. But in terms of keeping the light burning, they're doing that. How they generating more money and how to generate more money in the process is what they're lacking, and they really need the government to come in. You have to understand though, LEC is not entirely under government. You have to understand that. So they had to put somebody in there who actually knows what he's doing, who understands administration, who got connections and has the ability, to actually get work done. And Money Captain couldn't have been a better choice. And that was a great decision by Judge here. And we have been asking him, though it's late, we've been asking him throughout the years, make these kinds of decisions. Get 12 out in the first 6 months. Get a renowned financial expert who has a open, a broad knowledge about these kinds of things. Build the economy. Do not take a common bank employee and make him a bank governor when he has no actual financial background. We pushed these things. We told them these things, but they insisted they wouldn't listen. And they have failed, and we're talking about one entity. But yes, I give LEC up to 85% for effort.
Let me ask you a question, Mr. Kamara. If you're removing Samuel 12, give me two names that you think are capable of running the finance ministry better than 12.
What?
No,
What about not
I'm
bound?
asking you an honest question. Say that
What
again.
about not? What about not bound?
That's the thing. We can't keep doing this with this recycle politician. We can't keep recycling these people.
I don't get your
Fresh
point.
minds and
Your
fresh
point
ideas.
is your point. I can get your point. So is the first idea working?
Yes.
I mean,
That first idea is working, right?
Yes.
Okay, so let's go ahead then.
Okay,
The,
great.
the orders will be the judge.
Now, Mr. Kamara, one of the things that you touched on, which is also factual, since everything is now being fact-based, is that Mr. Captain, he said among all the evaluation, the assessment they made, one of the main reasons for power theft is just what you said, the lack of the meter. So he said in the next 4 months, they have 300,000 meters coming. He said they got two shiploads of meters coming to the country. They did the assessment, they came to the same conclusion that part of it, not all of it now, but the main part of the power theft was that the meter system, the previous administration did not take meter into account, that it was actually one of the core foundations of power in the country. I, for one, I paid for my meter in October last year. Okay, I'm glad my new home is in Tingle Village, and for the first time, they called me that my meter has arrived. They planted the pole. Actually, they have all the poles have been planted in Tinker Village, and for the first time, they came and installed my meter and everything, and now I got light in my house for the first time. And everybody in Tinker Village now, for the first time, has current. So yes, it is working. But he also recognized what you just said, that most of the power theft, some of the power theft came about when people could not have the meter in their homes. Some people paid for the meter up to a year. They couldn't get it. Another thing you left out, which they clamped down on, and it is the cartel within the LEC system. The same people that work in the LEC system that disconnect these power things, they are the same people that go back at night.
That's when the government comes in.
That's correct. They come in and take money from the phone and go and then reconnect that stuff. So they were able to clamp down on it. They were able to put people in jail, because once they arrested these people, they had to tell them, listen, we'll cut you a deal if you tell us who'll keep connecting this, reconnecting this. And that's how they were able to weed some of those bad apples out. So it was a great point that you mentioned, the meter stuff, but also we have a syndicate of employees within the LEC themselves that would disconnect these wires, and then people will go out there and then reconnect. But what they're doing now is like they do here. They don't have to go to your house anymore to disconnect, because it's on a meter system. If you don't pay your bill and put the money into the meter, it wouldn't work. And if that meter continues to work, it registers at the office to find out who it is. So we are getting there. But let's move to the next one here. He touched on the foreign affairs. And one of the things that we have been talking about people want President Weah to actually perform miracle in 5 years. He said this: true government reform takes patience and determination. Long-term change requires behind the scene efforts that often go unseen by the regular people on the street. So here we are. You and I know you were into planting. We talk about agriculture here. If you planted cassava, somebody cassava take what 3, 4, 5 months. You cannot get cassava immediately. It takes patience. It takes nurturing. It takes watering. It takes care. So those who invested their money in the LEC is now coming to fruition. Mr. Morris,
Right.
there was a movie.
That's
There was a movie here that we talk about. Helen Keller, what they call her, the miracle worker. They are trying to make President we are the miracle worker. They say he came saying he was going to do this, he was going to do this, and it has not happened. Government doesn't work like that. And the man just said it. It takes patience, it takes commitment, it takes care.
no. That's why you see. I say I was perplexed by this statement because he knew that all along. He knew that all along. So when he was making these disparaging comments about our country and in the government, you know, before this, why didn't he point out, that fact out that these things take time? You gotta, put the foundation before you can start to see the results. So why didn't he say it? Instead, he was criticizing the government left and right. So that's why I think this statement is more like it's kind of like hypocritical and kind of maybe like like butt kissing, so to speak.
Damage
Because
control.
yeah,
No,
because he knew all of this a long time ago that these things would take time, but he was criticizing this president, criticizing the government, but now he's waxing poetic about this government. So I don't think it's an honest assessment from
but
him because I think go
no,
ahead, Mr. Gayman.
you have to give the ambassador credit because let's go back to his confirmation in Washington D.C. If you watched it, he was asked by Senator Menendez, one of my favorite senators from New Jersey. They asked him,
Bob Menendez.
Bob Menendez, what is it that you are going to do in Liberia, specifically as your legacy? And he said it. He said there is this misconception about corruption in Liberia, whereas we have every dime that goes into Liberia, we have represented at every ministry, every agency. USAID spends our money. We have all the report. So this notion about corruption is something that he's going to address when he gets there. So we are talking about this a tough love. He did go there to correct some of these things, but also have to make sure that listen, even though I'm here to make some correction, these things have to be done. So yes, it's like a father. You will be tough on your child, but you want your child to do well. And if that child finally make that A in that class, you thank him for it. And this is the same scenario, Mr. Elvis.
I mean, I don't agree totally with you, Mr. Gayman, because again, like I said, I like to see balance analysis, everything in balance. We know our country is not where we want it to be. There's a lot of shortcomings when it comes to the issues in our country or even the governance of our country. But you can't just harp on all the negative all the time and give meat, political red meat to the opposition to continue to use you as confirmation that the president is not doing what he's supposed to do. But then at the end of your tenure, you come out and say, well, these things take time. The president is doing, he's trying his best. He's making some strides here, but it takes time for you to see the fruit of these things. We know that. We are, people who support the president, we know that. We say all the time. But before, if he would have said that 2 years ago, we would have come on this platform and said, you see, the ambassador knows this. He's from the United States. They know what the president is doing. You guys just not seeing the fruits yet, but in a couple of years' time, you will. We would have loved to hear that a couple of years ago. But now it seems like it's too late. The damage has been done. He said some statements that the opposition ran on and tried to beat the president down because he said the president was corrupt, the president neglected the people in the rural area, all sorts of disparaging comments he made, and the opposition ran with it. And now he's trying to, like Mr. Kamara said, he's trying to do damage control, which for me, I don't buy it. Although I think most of the things he said we knew already and we know it to be the truth, but it's a little too late to try to, praise the president when you've already damaged him by saying a lot of disparaging things previously. I'll leave it
Mr.
there.
Mr. Kamara,
Yes,
you and
sir.
I come from the old school where we are tough on our children. In some instances in this country, they will send you and myself to jail for, well, back home we spank our children because, like when our brother would pull me by my ear, they sit down, shut up, and do your work and all that. If you do it here, the child will call human services, and they will take care of
CPS.
it. Right. But you are doing it, you are like you know I have a son who is doing very well, and I boast of him every time everywhere I go. But this is like making sausage. What the people see that they are praising is the finished product. If they actually saw what it took to get that young man to where he is, I would have been in jail if it were now the kind of family. If it was a typical American family, I would be in jail. I guess you too the same way, because you have to be tough in some of these cases. You cannot just shower praises on people. Oh, this child is so great. This child. No, no child turned out to be great without going through experiences and guidance from you, including some spanking. So I think the ambassador was on point to tell us exactly. Listen, you got boogers in your nose. You got boogers in your nose. There is no other way you can say it, Mr. Kamara.
Yeah, I think the president, the ambassador statement, there was a lot of dishonesty in it. To be honest with you, I don't know if he was warned. I think there was a huge public outcry uh, of his assessment of the government, and he's coming back to do damage control, and he's even messing things up even further in many instances. To say that the things are being done behind the scenes and it takes time to show up, that's a statement that don't make any sense in my opinion. What we have seen happen over the years since CDC took over is that CDC has broken down what it meant, intending to start their own system. They were the anti-graft entities established before CDC came. All they needed to do was to continue with the trend or to add to what they met. They broke it. In 2016, I went to Liberia and registered a business on the same day. I went to the Commerce Ministry, registered a business the same day, walked out. I went to the same thing in 2020. For a whole month, I could not get my business registered. I had to come back to the States. It took 90 days. I had to use other representatives in the process of 3 months before that registration could have occurred. And you call that something that somebody has built, the system was already there. So that means they broke that down. Let me tell you another instance. At the John F. Kennedy Maternity Center, quote me, my driver's wife got, she was supposed to give birth. They took her over there, so she had to go through a C-section. That lady, even though her baby passed, did you know that there were two sharing a bed at the maternity center? That's the process right now as we speak. That wasn't the process before CDC came to power. We are telling you that clinics around the country that were designated to issue birth certificate, and they were issuing birth certificate on time before CDC came. Those clinics do not have printers or they do not have inks to print out these birth certificates. These are real life reality. At JFK today, my lady went to EW hospital the other day after she was diagnosed with typhoid and malaria. They gave her all of her medications at the hospital, at the EWA hospital. My brother's wife, who should have gotten her, she got her treatment at JFK, could not get her medication. We had to buy her medication from the outside. Before CDC came, JFK was giving medication to the patients.
Mr.
So to
Kamara.
say that the truth,
Not true.
the truth.
Mr.
Let me
Kamara.
let me let me let me let me
Go ahead.
land here.
Go
I,
ahead.
I, I saw the solicitors coming. I expected you guys to come, but let me land here. Okay, the truth is the reality is not being felt by Mr. Gilman, who lives in a $1 million home in Miami. The reality is not being felt by Mr. Evans, who can at least make his $2,000 at the end of the month. The reality is on the grounds in Liberia. When you see two C-section operated women laying on the scene, they can possibly hit each other when they're sleeping. You know it's dire. This is desperate times in Liberia. So for the ambassador to say that they're working on something, and what we are saying is, why did they break what was already there in the first place? How come they did not expand upon what they met? Why did they break it down?
Uh, uh,
Mr. Kamara, when
we
one second, Mr. Gayman, when did JFK get the nomenclature just for killing? Was it
can
under President We are under Ellington?
we
But
can
you see,
see
that's the problem I have with
Oh, you can see
conversations
me?
like this. That's the problems I have with conversations like this. I elect you, Evans, to go somewhere and make improvement. You mess it up, then you tell me, say, well, that only honor me, it happened before. I mean, that is not a debate.
Mr. Kamara,
Yes,
you
sir.
uh your statement, your comments are so hard to believe. A single bed, okay?
Yes.
That single bed that is not bigger
I
than.
bet you $1,000. I bet
Listen.
you $1,000.
There is no way two pregnant women are going to be under a single bed.
I bet you
Not even a twin
$1,000.
bed. We're not even talking about twin bed. We're talking about the hospital bed as big as a stretcher. And you're going to tell me they had two pregnant. But anyway,
Why don't you? Okay, you know what?
no, listen.
Why don't you send FOL a man over there? In fact, they might not let it in because they do not let people in. Send FOL man over there to verify what I'm telling you.
Mr. Kamara, since nobody can verify that. But let's look at that. You said here,
I said my driver's
listen,
wife,
listen,
so I can verify what I'm telling you.
listen, sir. I live in America. I have a very good health system and everything. When I go to the hospital, they write me my prescription and send it to Walgreens, which is our place, and I go over there and buy my
No,
drug.
no, 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 no. I will let you speak, but I will not let you fool the people. First
Uh,
of all, every hospital in this country has a pharmacy. They ask you for your choice of pharmacy.
mhm.
Your choice of pharmacy. If your choice is Walgreens, then they forward your document to Walgreens. If
No
you want to use their pharmacy, you go downstairs and you get your
No,
medications being taken.
no. Well, maybe that in your Baltimore area, there, but in this country, we
Which country?
in
We all
Florida,
live here.
in your, part of your country, in Florida, when I go see my doctor, when I go to the emergency room, okay,
Mhm.
they will go through the list. I don't see any hospital that has a pharmacy where you can buy prescription.
Mr. Gayman,
They
what part
don't
of
give you
Florida you
free
live?
prescription. You have to buy
They
it.
put a medication.
What part of
Listen,
Florida you live?
listen. They
Here
put
you get treated in the hospital. They give you medication during the process
yes,
of treatment.
yes,
Now,
yes.
when they sign you out, then you go out to your
Yeah,
pharmacy and
but
get drugs.
you do not have
In Monrovia, the pill they give you while you're on the emergency bed, you have to pay for that.
well, you pay
Do you
for that
understand
too.
that?
Yeah, because
You
you
pay for
got
that.
insurance.
No,
For
but
example,
listen
we
to
have insurance system in this country
this.
where we pay
Elvis,
our premiums. Yeah, go
Elvis,
ahead, Mr. Gayman.
that pill they give you in the hospital, in emergency room, in the ER, you pay for it too. You
Yeah.
But
in fact,
listen,
that pill,
you don't go outside and get charged for it.
listen,
That's what I'm saying.
that pill you could pay 25 cents for it in the at Walgreens here. That pill they give you at the hospital,
$5 will charge you for
five,
it.
$10 for it. But let's move on to what he says here about the you said we talk about reformation. He said here, he pointed out that mainly, look at this, the Ministry of Foreign Affairs has introduced systemic reform for processing legal attestation and passport, including requiring bank receipt rather than cash receipts, as they have been done in the history of Liberia. Systemic. This government has actually changed the
He must be out of touch. He
uh,
must be out of touch.
there you go.
The issue
There,
of paying money through banks were through the Unity Party
there
government. That's why it started.
there you go. We are talking about systemic changes. Okay, the president.
Something wrong with that ambassador.
Yeah, the ambassador is talking about. We're talking about the man is giving you data. He says the government have, for the first time in the history of Liberia, we have put in systemic changes through the foreign ministry that these things, selling of passport, paying for cash, all of these things are now done. They are now being computerized, systematized. that nobody cannot do it. These are things that the man said. In the health sector, he said, in the health sector, he said Liberia is now sharing with the world its experience as a leader in community health workers methodology.
And you believe that?
Listen, 41 countries around the world, he mentioned, have adopted Liberia methodology, adding a flagship malaria study show that the community health workers model approach is receiving so much attention. It rates of infections of
It's amazing how the ambassador are your best friend now. The last time you were cussing me here, today he's your best friend.
listen, infection for children under 5-year-old have plummeted from 49% to 18% only in 6 years. He said only in 6 years.
Something wrong with our ambassador. I don't know which country he's talking
That's why I
about.
say it's too flowery. It's too flowery.
Something wrong with our ambassador.
Elvis, if the data wasn't there, that is something that you can check. You say,
But what data? There's no data. There's no data.
He said the
There's no data.
He said World Health from 49% in Liberia to 18% only in 6 years. Okay, glimpses of the new Liberia, he says. So he went on, and I'm saying to myself, he says though that the new trainees, the U.S. diplomat trumpet the impact of the U.S. exchange program high on the lives of many Liberian youth. He also signaled out the youth election fellowship program at the U.S. Embassy, where 33 youth from diverse political parties participated. These are things that during Joseph Boakai time, you only had to be from either LOFA or you had to be from Unity Party. This one president, we are saying all political parties have to be involved. Okay? So, I mean, this thing, now listen to this. Earlier, he paid homage to where administration Liberia principled and unwavering stand against the unprovoked attack by Russia on the Ukraine. You remember why Louis Brown got fired?
Yeah.
Murray, do you?
Yeah,
remember?
you're voting against the United States interest, and it was not aligning with the Liberian government interests.
How are these things flowering when they
Of
are?
course. So how will you not expect praises from the American ambassador for that? But go to the next topic.
Okay, so ladies and gentlemen, this is where we are with the president. This is a slam dunk. Okay, the president, the ambassador have said that he's now writing his final report to Congress, and this is.
But go read, go tell the readers everything is well.
No matter what you say in between, there is always a beginning and an end. What the people say when I was coaching basketball, they say you have to end the quarter strong, end strong, start strong, end strong. And this is what this administration have done. They started strong. A lot of things happen in between, but they actually hit a home run at the end. And if I were in a position, I would take this report, final report to Congress, with the millions of dollars that the opposition has spent in lobbying, smearing this government, protesting. They went to the U.S. government, and Ms. Wehe and Alice Cummings and the ANC.
The government of the United States of America indirectly indicted the CDC-led government a few months ago. So whatever this ambassador have said completely contradicts what the United States government have said. But again, we know he's damage control. We know he's lying about certain things. So we already know.
If the man wasn't creating facts, we say damage control, but he's giving you facts, and I would take.
He's not giving me any. He's not giving me any fact. That's CDC
fact.
Ladies
and gentlemen, welcome to Focus on Liberia's On Point. We spend a lot of time on this because it's very critical for us to do this. But if you want to share the show, please share the show. Make a contribution to this. With me today are Alio Kamara, a supporter of Joseph Boakai. He is not a member of the Unity Party, but a supporter and believer in Joseph Boakai. And Mr. Elvis, who is a centrist, even though he's leaning towards the president. And of course, you know who I am.
He's not a centrist. He's not a centrist. He's a CDC man.
Supporter of the CDC government.
CDC, but balance.
Now, ladies and gentlemen, let's go to number 2 on here. It is very, 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 very important for us to discuss these issues because our electoral process is going to be evaluated based on this. The ambassador have done his farewell message. Now then look at, there was another post on Front Page Africa with Alexander Cummings. I don't know. He said he no longer ANC, now CPP. So Mr. Kamara may want to know how he went from ANC to CPP. He's the only person in there, but he called it collaboration. Like you be the one man and say, like the United States, you have a baseball team, you win, somebody win the baseball tournament, and he said he won the World Series. Only American in there, but he said World Series. That's what Cummings doing there. Cummings called himself collaborating political parties. And he's the only person in that party, but he said collaborate. So here we are. This week or last week, he joined a forum. I guess he wanted to have the Harvard touch. He was not invited. He joined. Anybody who had joined that forum, he joined the forum. But the forum was very, very important. Little did he know, and I said sometimes, who is advising Cummings? Because in tennis, we call this unforced error. How can you keep making mistakes that nobody even touch you? You just walking by yourself, you're falling down, Kamara. Nobody trip you. The place is clean. The road is clean. No dirt, nothing. You just fall. You either be clumsy or something. Now here he is. He is at Harvard with other folks, trying to look for a model that he can replicate in Liberia. Remember now, this man been running for president all this time.
Yeah.
He didn't know which model. Now, finally, he wants to find one, and the one he's looking at, clearly looking at, is Paul Kagame. Of all people, Paul Kagame. Mr. Kamara, you take it from here. Why would Joseph Boyka go to Harvard instead of say, this is my vision, this is where I want to take Liberia? You say, I'm going to look around. Maybe Idi Amin looks good.
I really wanted to go first on this topic to set the premise. Please allow me to go, Mr. Kamara.
Okay, so who's next? Is it Idi Amin? He picked Paul Kagame. Tell me what's going on.
Yes, I don't think a lot of people know Paul Kagame because on this platform, no offense to Mr. See It, but you always talk about Rwanda. Look at Kigali. Look at Rwanda. Liberia could be like Rwanda. You know what? Look at what Paul Kagame is doing. Look at how Kigali is clean. Most people don't know who this man is. That's why I just wanted to give a little background as to who he is and what caused even the problem in Rwanda. You know, you have the Tutsis. You know, you look at their physiology, the Tutsis and the Hutus. The Tutsis are very tall people. They have this, elongated head. They have like a longer head. So when the people from Belgium came there, they did like a quote unquote a case study. And they said that these people were more closely related with Caucasians. Can you imagine? Dark-skinned black people with nappy hair like myself were more closely related with Caucasian because they were tall in stature and they had, these longer nose, or skinnier nose compared to that of the Hutus, who were more, stout in their build, shorter, have more, flatter head. They're doing all of these nonsense, and trying to tell these people that they're better than the Hutus. So they put them at the leadership position in Rwanda. And for many years, it was like that. They even had a king, the Tutsi king, who was the king of, pretty much Rwanda for many years. I think there was a coup and he went to Belgium. That's where he died. So they stoked this tribal divide between these two people. And there's been always that hatred and this superiority and inferiority complex between the Hutus and the Tutsis. So that's why when you saw the Rwanda genocide, it wasn't coming from a place of, it wasn't coming from nowhere. There was centuries of hatred between these two group of people that was planted in their heads by the Belgians, by people from Belgium who told the Tutsi that they were better than the Hutus. So Paul Kagame is a Tutsi. During the time of Yoweri Museveni, Paul Kagame was one of Museveni's general who went into Uganda and took over power from I don't know if it was Nelson Obote or the president after him, but he took over Uganda, and he lived in Uganda with Museveni, and Museveni facilitated his armed rebellion to go back into Rwanda and take over the country. Since Paul Kagame took over Rwanda, he became president, I think in the early 2000s. He's never relinquished power. The guy that made the movie Hotel Rwanda, I think we've all seen that movie, who in the movie was portrayed as a hero, somebody who saved, Tutsis from his own Hutu brothers who were trying to kill them because he was married to a Hutu woman, a Tutsi woman. This guy was portrayed as a hero. Paul Kagame arrested that guy clandestinely while he was taking a flight, I think in Kenya, and transported him back to Rwanda. And the guy is serving, I think, life in prison right now because he said he was complicit in the genocide of the Tutsis. So this is a guy who is not democratic in most of his doings. He has a mine in Goma, in the eastern part of the DRC Congo. He has this army called the Mai Mai, who are wreaking havoc in the DRC Congo, taking the cobalt, taking the coltan, and he's pretty much waging a proxy war against the Congolese government. He and Museveni, they're doing this together. They're causing instability in the central region in Africa. So this guy who people wax poetic, what most Liberians don't even know his history or know what he's really doing on the continent, always try to look at Rwanda as a model for Liberia to follow. And you see Cummings making that same mistake to try to go after the Rwanda model. Is he not looking at democracy in Rwanda? Is he saying that if George Weah starts, doing quote unquote great in Liberia, everybody perceive him to be great, he should stay there for 20, 30 years? Is that what we're saying in our country? Somebody who is waging war in another country by proxy and taking the natural resources, that's a president that we should be trying to model our presidents after, or our country should go after that same model of development? Of course not. So I think it's due to his ignorance, because he doesn't know the full history of Kagame and what led him to be in the position that he is now, and the despotic rule that he's carrying on in Rwanda, arresting his political opposition, arresting anybody who we see as a threat, and putting them in jail. But then masquerading it as, oh, look at Rwanda, they're so developed. After war, they're so developed, he must be doing something right. It's not the case. We have to dig deeper, and we have to look under the surface to see the true Paul Kagame and what he's really doing in Rwanda. I wanted to set that premise before I pass it to Mr. Kamara.
Mr. Kamara, Paul
Yes.
Kagame has been in politics, in leadership, since the 80s. In fact, he served at one point vice president, minister of defense. He's been here forever. And then when he took power, he's been there over 20 years. And in fact, he just passed a law, he will be around to 2037. Cummings coming from Maryland County, where President Tubman, one of the big king in Liberia, served for 27 years. Thank God, God called him home. This man is looking at similar matter, in fact, even worse.
See, you guys, for some reason, are surprised. I am not surprised when I see the Congo man coming close to power. See, these people, they're not people who relinquish power. We know from 1847 when they took it. When a Congo man tells you that he's looking at the Paul Kagame's model, he's trying to bring back the three-week party system. They want their country back. That is what's going on here. So listen to this. Liberia has graduated to a stage where no one individual can decide what Liberia can be. It requires a parliament. It requires that where the judicial branch has always been under the president anyway. They shouldn't be, but they are. So the parliament, once you have a strong parliament, the president falls flat. But let me just say, this is one of the things that distinguishes Joseph Boakai from Arizona Cummings big time. Joseph Boakai, you will never hear in any of his exposés telling you about copying from anyone. Any leader who does copy and paste is bad for the society. A leader must have his or her own vision, something they have dreamed about, something they wish to accomplish in their lifetime, something that is one of a kind, that's innovative. To have a man who worked with Coca-Cola all these years, and somebody expect him to be something other than some stationary methodology, then you have an issue. This man has only worked in structured systems, structured society, where he goes and he meets all the softwares already set up, and they show him what to do with those softwares. He's just managing. He has never been in a position of creating anything. He doesn't know how to create anything. That's why he has never built a business in his entire life. All he has done is work for established businesses. And you take a man like that, you put him into a competition where a man like Joseph Nimabwaga is, and expect something better. Let me tell you, this guy keeps showing to the world, to the Liberian people, that this is not his area. He's not as strong in this area as people think he is. He doesn't know what to do. He has to copy from those who he thinks knows something. Everything he's saying is copying. Now he's talking about getting rid of the Ministry of Information. That was Joseph Barker's first statement, that the Ministry of Information and other government agencies that are liability to government will be taken out. Now coming running with it. He has to copy and paste. And for people who are running behind this guy to not be paying attention, to realize that this guy doesn't know where he's going. He doesn't know what he's delving into. It's appalling. It amazes me. At one point, they came up and said that this guy was Jesus Christ, and everybody had to come under his tent. How can the guy be Jesus Christ when he's a novice? This guy is a novice. This guy does not have any clue why he got into this. I guess he's enjoying the publicity. People are making music and they're dancing on the pool. 24 telling people in one room, they dance, they say the man won the win election. The people in that room, only 4 of them got voter registration card. How can that man win election as a result of that? And we look at them, all of his boasting is in the United States. You go to Liberia, this man, the only way you can get 100 people in one location is he has to pay MTA to get buses. This is the kind of man that they're running behind. The man who has absolutely no new recognition. He has no landmark, no mark to show what he's done. 40 years goes back to Liberia after using public money to go to school. Never appeared back to that country. Just bounce there one day. He must be president because it's time to take the country back. Over my dead body. Not gonna happen.
Mr. Morris, here we are talking about being factual,
Right.
and when folks are talking about defamation, when people are talking about things that would malign people's character, the only defense against that is facts. Mr. Kamara talk about people talking about taking their country back. We heard Cummings, wait a minute, Uri said it. In fact, it was the theme of the CPP, of which rambling that this man now serve as chair of the CPP. But during the heyday of the CPP, Uri, the spokesperson for the CPP said, we want our country back. We're going to take our country back. In fact, they asked him, from whom do you want to take your country? He said, the cockroaches. These are words that these people use. So anybody on here who want to look at Mr. Kamara as a hater or somebody who is spewing garbage or he's into dividing folk, facts. You gotta debate the fact. Uri said this. It was the mantra of the CPP, Mr. Morris.
Right. The thing about us, we the quote unquote native people or country people, we wear our heart on our sleeve. We say what we mean out in the open. Other people will say it behind closed doors because they don't want you to know their true intentions. I will say this. One of the reasons I support George Weah is because he's a native man. I want to see a native president do well in that country. I want him to know that we are capable of leading the country and leading it to prosperity. When people are online, sometimes I see this a lot. Some of these, very disgruntled quote unquote Congo people who will say things like, "Oh, you're in your way, the country ass is in the one of the country. Look how they not mess up that country. Look how they not spoil the country." The same thing that we're telling Toba not to get in any kind of right. They get in now, they spoil the country, but they're forgetting to know they financed a war in that country and broke everything that they quote unquote ever built with the money of the Liberian people. They broke it down. So they destroy the country on purpose and then leave it in our hands and say, "Oh, what are you doing with it now?" I brought it up to you earlier, Mr. Gayman. There's a guy called DKB, Daniel K. Bracewell, which was one of Charles Taylor's right-hand man during Taylor's time. During his TRC testimony, this guy had the audacity in front of the whole country, the entire nation, to say that we, the country people, should forget about trying to be president and vice president. Maybe they will give us, minister position, but the president and vice president should be left for the Congo people, the quote unquote American Liberia. The guy said that in front of this entire group of commissioners and the entire country at large. These are the conversation they have in private, but that guy was open to say the quiet part out loud to the entire country to hear it. So
let me support Everett there for a second. Let me support Everett there for a second. DKB was an ordinary general, frontline general. Right. That man, I don't want to spend my time on him. But you think about these people who are talking about taking country back. Did you know even the National Bank of Liberia, from 1847 up to the time Samuel Doe took over in 1980, was a building being rented from the same people in the government?
Yeah, even the finance ministry, other ministry, people are rent. Our government is renting it from these families.
The Ministry of Finance, that building now still belongs to the Talbot. Did you know that?
I don't understand that. How? I mean, I'm not.
Every ministry, what they did was they got in government, they apportioned money for themselves, they built something, structure for rent, and then they rented to themselves. Imagine, I am working in the ministry as a budget bureau man, as a person in charge of budget, right? And I have a building, and the government needs building. I am the same man writing that check. I can determine how much to pay for this damn thing. All right, excuse me for my expression. Even if the building is worth $200 at that time, the man make it $10,000. Right. The money is coming to himself. The president is aware. The minister of that ministry is aware. Everybody is aware. The country people have to pay the hot tax.
Right.
You see this kind of evil stuff. These same people turn around and come back and say, "Listen, I have nothing against Paul Kagame. Paul Kagame is a benevolent dictator. He should not be a dictator. But in fact, Paul Kagame has developed his country to the point where the European Union, they're trying to pay him so that immigrants from other parts of the world who are not black people can go to Paul Kagame's country to live, and they'll pay him. That's how much he has improved his country. Okay, there's a bad side, there's a good side of him. But let's look at the so-called global man, because I know he's not global man. Alexander Benedict Comey is not a global man. Alexander Benedict Comey is 100% Congo man. Do you understand me? With small Nigerian background. So let's look at their history. Let's look at Tubman. 27 years. The other fellow was using yachts. A home in Maryland County, where he claimed to be a home. Because there are two places they can claim, the Congo people. They claim Grand Bassa County and they claim Maryland County. Those places, it's hard to challenge them. I bet you can't just get like claim Nima County. All the men know your village. Your great-grandfather village, they know it. If you say you're from Nima County, you tell them what part and what will your great-grandfather need. And don't even attempt over. So they go to the part of Liberia that their people actually subjugated when they came. That so-called southeastern region where they killed them and made them into their own slaves. So those are the places they up to today, they stay capable of claiming. But let's look at their governmental history. Look at what this man did. The man would not use road to go to Maryland where he was from. He used only the yacht because the road was too bad for him. This is a man that used to get on his yacht and go on sea for 3 months straight, 90 days at a time. He's smoking booze and taking 16-year-old and 13-year-old girls with him. This is a man who built road and only stopped it to the place he called his farm in Turuta. Didn't go beyond that. For 27 years, this is a man that can only boast of the executive mansion and maybe the Capitol building, which were built by foreign countries. Executive mansion was built by England. Those are the places he can boast of. He cannot show you anything that he did using Liberia's resources. He cannot show you anything like that. Most of the concession he signed, you're talking about bogus concession under Ellen. Ellen had a situation where she had to provide at this particular moment She met a ravaged country. There was nothing there, no running water, no electricity, down it burned down to the ground. No jobs anywhere, no facilities. She had to do something at a time so that the government coming after her will build upon that and make some arrangement, make some changes. So you cannot even compare the two. So when people say here, say, oh, Aliyu is divisive, Aliyu is this and Aliyu is that. No, we all have some kind of a background. So I'm not dividing Congo or Native. Congo people are Liberians, Native people are Liberians, but the history that the Congo people imposed upon us must be told, will be told, should always be told. These people have had their moment. 130 plus years of being entitled to all natural resources, including human resources. You could just take a man like Mr. Gayman, take a bastard knee from him and give him a knee, and nobody can do a damn thing about it. You have all that privilege. It's over now. You can't get it back.
Okay.
Mr.
Now,
Mr. Kamara, I just read a comment in the comment section, and I wanted to respond to it quickly. Somebody said, Joseph Conto, he said, the same Congo people you buy mouthing are the people who give Joseph Yuma Boyka an opportunity. Can you imagine?
Why should they give him an opportunity in his own country?
Right, in your country. That's the mentality you have, that they give us opportunity in our own country. Well, I'll leave it there. I just wanted to put that out there.
ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Focus on Liberia. There are times in the family, they got some family secrets they don't want to talk about, but they are hard conversation we have to keep. Like I always told the folks, our Congo brothers, there are some great things that these people did. They caused for them to go back to Africa, for them to have been treated so badly in these countries, for them to say, I would rather take the chance and die on the sea or in Africa than die in South Carolina. It takes courage. And they did some great things. We have to discuss those things. We got to give them credit. But we also equally have to discuss what they did that was not right. You are talking about we got a country and since 1980, you forgetting that Ellen took 12 years of that time you're talking about and ran the country. You forgot that Charles Taylor took 20 years of that time, because from 1989, when he started his insurrection, the country stopped. It was all about Charles Taylor until he got elected all the way up to 2002. So you want to talk about country people running the country? It was few years that Doe ran it, and now President Weah came in, and because of his name. But we are some of those people who encourage him to bring everybody on board. When you look at the Shaws of the world, the Bernards of the world, the Brights, these are people that if we were trying to be mean, to say it's only country people alone, these people would not be around. But we have to work together as a people. We have to work together. You cannot denigrate 90%, 95% of the country because the 5% wants to be in power. No, we have to work together. We have to acknowledge our strengths and our weaknesses. And those of you who are in denial, you are getting ready, just like the Charles Taylor and those folks were doing. The people warned, or Mr. Swing warned us. Those of you beating this war drum, do you know what war can do? I remember vividly he said, do you understand the unintended consequences of war? When our war happened, my uncle Tom was with you. I was with him in New Jersey, fighting the same battle. When they were about to transport drugs into the country to get the child soldiers. You talk about drugs now? You're talking about drugs now? These kids that were 10, 15, 11, 20 years ago, they're not in their 30s. They are illiterate. They can't read. They can't write. They know the effect of drug. They can tell you. They can lecture other kids. Listen, take this drug. Take this. When I was taking it, bullet couldn't do nothing to me. They say you're brave, man. You take this thing here. You will be brave. You can run into fire and come out. You are altering the minds of folks. Today, instead of us collectively talk about drug in our country, you want to politicize it. It was Ellington, it was Joe Time. No, it was deliberately introduced. We knew we had drugs there with marijuana and little things here and there, cooking for very rich people, and that was that. But this actual drugs of crack in the 80s that were introduced into Liberia to the child soldier babies. Open any film on the Liberian Civil War and see how these children were killing each other. You think any natural person whose mind has not been altered will open the belly of a pregnant woman and don't have some consciousness? You got to have an altered mind. You have to be on drugs to do this.
Mr. Gayman, that's why I say, but every time I say it, people say, oh, don't look back. I think the biggest problem, the worst thing that happened to our country in terms of recovering or reconciliation is Ellen Johnson Sirleaf. When we had those donors who were willing to give an arm and a leg to help us recover, having a robust system for those people like you those child soldiers who was on drugs, who was substance addicted, to rehabilitate them and help revitalize them into our economy. She failed to implement the TRC because she was implemented in the war. So she missed the boat. She missed the opportunity for international community to help us to get these people off drugs.
Stop right there. I have something I want to read from a partner of mine from the University of Chicago, and it will blow your mind. This is what he said. He and I were talking, and he comparing Liberia and Sierra Leone. He says Sierra Leone is good institutionally, education-wise, and with better track records. Unlike Liberia, Sierra Leone did not permit or allow and entertain warlords enjoying power after all the destruction they orchestrated or syndicated in the country. They were carefully ostracized in Sierra Leone from politics and severely punished for their nefarious acts. But Liberia entertained and rewarded them with influential and wealthy positions. Lawlessness now in Liberia and impunity were strictly straightforwarded, granted right to exist in Liberia. I think Liberia needs to implement the TRC report and carefully stratify its politics. Thus, the society is bit lawless because guys who should arguably be behind bars are enjoying the crux of their fruits. They now have the power to clandestinely destroy anything that will bring about justice in Liberia. This is University of Chicago, a friend of mine.
Yeah, and that's the point I'm making.
Mr. Kamara, I think you have been vindicated. This is an academic, neutral, from the University of Chicago Department of Social Sciences, saying how this country is messed up, because when people were saying, destroy the city, we're building in 90 days. Can you imagine somebody in their right mind? Somebody in their right mind would say that now, instead of coming together and say, how do we fix this country? They are trying to divide us. When you talk about it, then you are the divider.
All right.
How do you call your countrymen and women? You want your country back, and they are cockroaches and they don't belong in anywhere that has to do with authority. I was telling folks, as a sociologist, I am telling folks, the essence of true reconciliation is for the family to sit down and discuss these things and see where our pains are. You cannot have men like Kamara and other folks suffering from what you did today, and you say, oh, that was a long time ago, let's just forget it and move on, like the black people are doing here. The race issue in this country, in America here, is not going away until they reconcile that. Police, we know the history of police in this country. The police system in this country was founded on hunting black folks from the plantation.
Right.
And it's still within there that you shoot and kill first before you ask questions. And they are shooting black folks everywhere. And people don't want to talk about it. Same thing going on. The heinous of what we did in Liberia to the folks. So, ladies and gentlemen, you are here listening to Focus on Liberia. We are reading a lot of stuff from Front Page Africa, and we want you to do your own analysis. Take the emotion and let's be factual.
Right.
Let's talk the truth. If you slap me in the face, or something happened between you and myself, and I've been keeping grudge, sometimes it pays to sit back and say, my man, what I did to you. And the person said, my man, listen, you did this to me. I didn't like it. Up to now, it's been years. You have not apologized. And you know within yourself what you did was wrong, but you didn't do anything to remedy that. And sometimes,
Mr. Gayman, one of the things that I always go back to, and that thing hurt me, but most people say, "Oh boy, it happened to your people." Look, the killing of those chiefs, those crew chiefs I think in Shino County,
that's correct.
they never apologized for it.
78.
They never, 78 of them. They never apologized for it.
The South, not the crew, the Southeasterners.
Yes.
All the kings and chiefs, paramount chief, they brought them together in Sino. The frontier force under the True We Party brought them to a reconciliation meeting. They said, come, let us go and talk this thing over. They came and the lineup, when they sat down, they massacred all of them.
Killed them.
The entire Southeast leadership, they decapitated them. And it's written. And nobody want to talk about it, but they are stuck on the 13 men.
The 13. That's what I say. You think 72 lives is less than 13 lives?
Why that was also wrong, and we find it to be barbaric. We also equally have to condemn the 70 and forget what the
but let me just come in there for a second. Let me just come in there for a second. I think we should blame ourselves too for some of these things. You understand? We should blame ourselves for some of these things. And it started with Doe, and it ends with Joshua. And I can guarantee you, I'm not just a broker arrangement. You see some of the things that I'm telling you. These guys are still kind of depicting what the history of Liberia should look like. Now, let me tell you this. For those 75 chiefs that were killed, how many indigenous leaders have come up with those names and say, you know what? We will change the names of the cities in Greenville to these 75 chief names. We will come to Monrovia. Look, you go to Abuja, you don't see no name, you don't see no street there called Johnson. Enter Monrovia. Springs, what you call it, Painesville, Gardnersville, Bensonville, Camp Johnson Road, Johnson Street, Carey Street, Ashmont Street, Nippo Street. What happened with our own people who were there before? Why don't they have Zulu Duma Street? Well, Zulu Duma was one of the people who actually even allowed them, even though they put gun to his head, who actually even allowed them to settle there. Why they don't have that? In fact, the hut or whatever Zulu Duma lived in, why did they brush the whole damn place and build something else there and not fix it enough for people to have it as a historic place for Liberia? Why did they destroy that? Why did they keep the executive pavilion, but they wouldn't keep the home of Zulu Duma? Why? Why would they not name any of our chiefs to these streets? And then when Ellen chose one street called Front Street to one indigenous leader named King Salboso, the descendants of the Congo people want that name off. They said there was nothing existed called King Salboso. You understand what I'm saying? So we have a long way to go. Indigenous, first thing, you must identify yourself. Self-identification is the first, let me just say the prerequisite to substantive growth and development. If you don't know yourself, you don't know where you're going. You definitely don't know where you're going. So we need to go back to the drawing board. All of these stupid street called Carey Street and other things, we need to first find out what is the importance of these people to, first of all, to our survival and to our foundation. Compare to some of those chiefs that we have in our past. And we'll change some of these names. We can do that. It happened in Zimbabwe. They changed the name to Zimbabwe. It happened in Burkina Faso. It was changed. People change things. We can go back and change everything.
That's why we were calling for a constitutional review committee in the country, to remake this country in our collective image. Because somebody like me looking at the formation of Liberia, I don't see my people as part of that. I don't see the people from Grand Judy as being an integral part of the formation of this country, even though they incorporated them in the '60s, but they were still under the territory of the Liberian government at the time. They were still under the authority of the Liberian government at the time. So if we want to remake our country that will encompass all of the tribes, including the Congo people, why can't we do that? But people say, no, this was a brilliant document. It was written brilliantly by brilliant men, and you don't need to go back and change anything. The country was founded on a great idea, but we don't see ourselves reflected in it. We, the native people, we don't see ourselves reflected in it. So why can't we do a reconstruction of our country where all aspects of our society will be reflected in our country, in the flag, in, like you said,
You are
historical
so
site.
correct. I believe that flag should be changed. I
Right.
believe that flag does not represent Liberia. First of all, they came to a country where there were two groups of people. There were the African spiritualists and there were Muslims. And then they tell the world that the country was founded on Christian principles. Then how can you say the Constitution is inclusive? It's not. So we need to go back to the drawing board.
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, let's real quick. We got 10 minutes here. Let's go out. Something strange is happening in Nimba County. Prince Johnson, for the first time, is feeling the heat of the Nimbayans. There are two names that are coming together, forming partnership to go after Prince Johnson. One name is Roland Duo from the NPP, and his partner is Makazon from the CDC wing. Mr. Kamara, I know you are well versed in the Nimba politics and what do you know about Roland Duo? Who is he, and why are the Nimba people rallying around him?
Roland Duo was an NPFL fighter, very powerful NPFL fighter who
ATU.
became the commander of the front lines,
Marine forces also.
who became the commander for the front lines during the alert NPFL fight. I like to call it alert. You want to say government fight? He controlled the road going as far as Stuttenberg and all of that. He was a very powerful man, Roland Duo. He built a lot of houses. He has a lot of real estates in Monrovia as a result of that war. Duopo Mekazon. Duopo Mekazon is also a child soldier general from Libya. They fought the war from the borders all the way to Monrovia. Duopo Mekazon. They were the guys with exactly Point and all of those guys. So with these are real killers we're talking about here. And I'm just astonished, to be fair, that Nimba County is so attracted to only the rebels and not the most intelligent and normal Nimba citizens. And it is appalling. And I don't understand that. However, I don't know. It would take some support from Prince Johnson, but I can't see how those two guys will beat Prince Johnson.
Great.
Let me come in here. I think what's going on here.
I want to make something clear. I know Mr. Kamara may have said something, but in most of the Nimbayans, when they send me text, they say these guys are warriors. They call all of them warriors. I know it's a general term for people that are in there. They call them warriors. And we know what warriors do. I think Mr. Kamara just went straight to it. Warriors are murder. They are killers. That's what warriors do. You kill people.
Yeah.
So don't get mad when he says it, but yeah, they consider them as freedom fighters. Like Prince Johnson considers himself freedom fighters. These guys consider. Yes, go ahead, Elvis.
And that's why I want to say, I think maybe the writing is on the wall, whether it's voluntarily or maybe involuntary. I think the chiefs in Nimba County are getting ready to, fix an exit for Prince Johnson. And besides Prince Johnson, maybe the next biggest warrior in the county will be someone like Roland Duo, like you said, who was a fierce fighter for the NPFL and also for the NPP, for the NPP government of Charles Taylor. So maybe this is his choosing, successor, because just how the chiefs and the zones of the county gave Prince Johnson his status in the county, maybe in terms of his retirement, maybe they've talked to him, and maybe Roland Duo because I don't think somebody like Roland Dewar, who also enjoys the support of the traditional people in the county, would just arbitrarily wake up and try to challenge Prince Johnson. So I think there might be a backdoor deal that to exit the stage, Roland Dewar being maybe the second most senior warrior, quote, so to speak, in the County would take Prince Johnson position. That may be looking too far into it, or maybe I'm making some leaps, but that's how I see it. That'll be my analysis on it.
Mr. Kamara, we,
Yeah.
we like uh, we in the West we say every constituent like their own crooks. If he comes from Grand Jita, he's a murderer. If he comes from Nima, he's a freedom fighter. When he comes from Nima, he's a murderer. When he comes from Grand Jita, he's a freedom fighter. That's what it is. And now, like this guy from the University of Chicago said, we opened the Pandora's box. Okay, in Sierra Leone, at least there were some thinkers there who said, you know what, these guys who have done all this killing, they should not come anywhere near power. And they agreed to it, that they will not be allowed. Whatever agreement was made for them to get out of the field, those who were giving clemency, you will be going to go back on your farm and do it. But you are not coming here to be senator, judges. How can you be a killer and be a judge? For God's sake, how can you sponsor the war and then come back be the president over the people? I mean, it just never happened. But in Liberia, it has happened. So here we are. I know President Weah is doing the best he can to bring a blend to say this is what, but Mr. Kamara, just like the University of Chicago said, we are infested. Our whole system now, we open the door and we are infested. What will you do if I made you president today to remedy this problem?
First of all, you made me president today, we'll have a problem. We'll have a problem where even the West will go against me. They will go against me brutally because I will be an all-African guy. I will only be about what works for Africans, not what anybody else thinks should work for Africans. One, I will change the Constitution. First thing, I will start with the parliament. I don't need two senators representing one county. If we already have 17 representatives in one county, we don't need two senators. We start with that. Number one. Number two, you can't make more than $3,000 in Liberian government unless you're the president, the vice president, the chief justice. You will not make more than $3,000. We'll start with that. Number two, I will change in fact, I will bring people from all walks of life. Let us sit down, discuss Liberian history. Let us rewrite the history of Liberia. Every single street in Monrovia would reflect names such as you will find in Lagos, Nigeria, such as you will find in Guinea-Conakry, such as you will find in Namibia, will reflect those names to reflect our Africanness. We will do that. We will rewrite our history. We will rewrite the Constitution to suit our cultural heritage. It will be a whole 9 year of thing. We will re-educate our people. We will re-educate them. We will free them from this indoctrination and these captivities. We will set the record straight. I don't care who plans to assassinate me. We will change the status quo. Things will go back to what it was intended to be by nature itself.
Thank you. Mr. Morris, we got 5 minutes left for our time. So we are going to go around the table, ask for our closing. 2 minutes of your time, please.
Right. Thank you. And in the same, I will just make my closing in the same line like Mr. Kamara was speaking. If I was president of Liberia, my biggest thing would be finding a national identity. People say, oh, but what does renaming these things do for the country? How does that even help the country? We got bigger problems than that. No. Know thyself. Knowing yourself first. Having an identity is the first key to self-fulfillment. You have to know who you are. So we as a people collectively, we have to form our identity. and that will encompass all of the tribes, the different groups of people in the country, so that they will see themselves reflected in our national symbols, our national streets, our national places of heritage. Everybody will be, reflected in that new country. We'll call that, whatever name we'll pick for it. That's one of the things that I think is important. And then reconciliation, coming and saying sorry, crying together, and healing together. It's important. There's a lot of hurt in that country still going on. Even some of us who were not really grown men and women during the war, but when we read history, when we hear these things, it brings hurt. It brings back some hurt to us, even though we never partook in it. But to see what happened to certain people and certain tribes going against each other, and what my tribe did to another tribe, that made me feel embarrassed, made me feel ashamed, and then what the other tribe did to my tribe made me feel hurt, want revenge. All these things, and it brings out bad feelings. And until we really sit together, which was what the TRC was supposed to be, but we didn't complete it. We didn't go through the process of implementing it, and that thing that still has a lot of lingering, hatred, a lot of lingering hurt, and our country is not healed. So that's why during election times, these old wounds tends to open up again. People start saying the same things. What is the native Congo divide? What is it's the mono, it's the geocrime, division? What is the, whatever? People tend to open those wounds when things tend to get tough in the country. When it's election time, when it's time to be picking sides, we tend to see those same schism start to show again. So for me, if I was president of Liberia, redefining ourselves, finding our collective identity as a nation would be one of my main priorities, and then reconciling the country. Reconciling the country. That would be my another objective of mine. But thank you for having me on today, Mr. Gayman.
Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. We cannot build a society if we are not reconciled. And please, don't let anybody tell you that we do not have a country, native Congo divide. We do. We have to define, I know there's a miracle Liberian peace. We put them all into one pot and call it the Congo, because that was the definite nomenclature that was given to us. Ladies and gentlemen, the Congo people did some great things coming to Liberia, taking the risk. We have to also explore that history. We also have to explore the bad things that it did. Then we have to reconcile those two now and say, you know what, let us build a nation, a society, or culture by consensus, where we always have our women, our men will have a stake in this. And not one group of persons that consider themselves over somebody else. This FOL, On Point, have begun that process. We are not going to go the way everybody else go. In fact, Robert Frost used to say, we will take the road less traveled. Thank you very much. God bless. And this is how we end our show.
We are Liberian. Liberia is our home. Liberian people. Liberia.